So I'm not some, carbon emissions or global warming expert, but this whole story to me seems like, I don't know how I would put it, but it just kind of seems dumb. I can't I don't understand how the information in this news article makes any sense, but apparently video games are like really bad for the environment. And I don't know how that works. I don't know how, video games or video game consoles affect the environment in any way apart from, stuff that's used to make the consoles or the video games. That's the only thing that I can see. But I got this article here that's going to enlighten us on how video games and video game consoles affect the environment. But before we get into this, I'm going to do a little bit of pandering, and I'm going to say 90% of you guys are not subscribed to my channel. So, how about you go subscribe to my channel, or I'm just going to go steal cookies from your cookie drawer while you're asleep. So go subscribe, or you're not going to have any cookies in the morning. Now, I'm going to say it again that I am definitely 100% not an expert on, climate change and stuff like that. I know there's things like greenhouse gases, which, they keep heat in the atmosphere, which, causes global warming and stuff like that. And it's a big issue that, humanity has to deal with and stuff like that. But when you say like the video game consoles and stuff have a huge effect on the environment, this, tiny small plastic box sitting in my living room, I know a bunch of people have them and stuff, so maybe that little box can, amount to a lot at the end of the day with there's so many of them. But at the same time, I don't know how, little maybe carbon emissions are actually emitted from the Xbox or your PlayStation, but it doesn't really seem like that much to me. But enough of me talking. We're gonna go into this and read this article. Nearly everything modern humans do as individuals has some larger impact on the Earth's climate, and gaming is no exception. Power-sucking consoles on PCs require quite a bit of power over their lifetimes, which has to come from somewhere. One might think console-free video game streaming services like Xbox Projects xCloud and PlayStation Now would solve this problem, but their relationship with the environment is more complicated than that. The idea of streaming as cloud gaming obfuscates the fact that streamed games have to be processed in a physical place. Project xCloud games played via Game Pass don't just come to players' devices from thin air. All streaming does, essentially, is move the console further away from the screen, and this distance means streaming requires more power than playing locally. Okay, after doing a bit of research, and this is like my third take of this little segment, after doing a little research on understanding what the actual fuck that streaming video games was, it means playing video games on your phone. And it's like if Xbox and PlayStation, now have their new things where you can just play the games on their phone. Like I have the Xbox app on my phone, so I could play a video game from my Xbox on my phone. So it makes more sense to me now. But yes, essentially it is moving the console farther away from the TV, but you're just using your phone, and I get that. And the console will have to produce more power, but I don't understand how that negatively affects the environment. Because, I don't understand, how does a console produce carbon emissions? I know it's hot and stuff. This whole thing, this is worded like an FBI document to me. They've wrote this in the most confusing way possible. It's like trying to read a scientific paper on why the Earth is flat. It's like that. But let's continue. Speaking to Polygon, University of Bristol professor of sustainability and computer systems Chris Priest explained the difference between streaming games and the other internet data usage like this. Cloud computing generally requires a lot of processing power from either data centers or from internet infrastructure networks. But cloud gaming needs both, as it must, quote, process data and render video in real time, in addition to responding to a user's inputs when they press buttons on a controller, Polygon said. But isn't that what video games already do? If you're online or you're doing stuff like that, aren't you already using processing power from multiple places? And you're inputting, movements and stuff by pressing buttons in the game to make your character or stuff do stuff in the game. So isn't this already happening in just a smaller way while just playing video games normally instead of, cloud gaming? As a result, a growth in the popularity of streaming would mean gaming in general has a worse impact on Earth's climate. A 2020 Lancaster University study, as reported by Polygon, used models to predict the environmental impact of game streaming by 2030. The researchers found that if game streaming is adopted by 90% of gamers, gaming's carbon emissions will increase by 112%, and even if only 30% of gamers switch to streaming, gaming carbon emissions will still see a 29.9% increase. Okay, so if people started streaming video games on their phones and stuff like that, if they started doing that, gaming carbon emissions would go up drastically. But let's say if we compared video game streaming to factories in China, India, Russia, some factories here in the US, what if we compare their emissions to the emissions of video games? And if we were able to get rid of all those, emissions from all those factories and stuff like that, would video game streaming at the end of the day even be a real problem? Because compared to those factories and stuff like that, they probably wouldn't really give a shit. Because compared to those emissions by, streaming, and compared to the emissions of those factories, it's fucking enormous. Because factories and stuff produce way more emissions than fucking streaming a video game off your phone. No matter what research, it's pretty much common fucking sense. I don't see, when I'm streaming a video game off my phone, I don't see smokestacks coming off the side, putting chemicals and shit into the air. That's not what I see. So, at the end of the day, let's say, again, we got rid of all these factories and stuff. Would these, emissions from gaming really even fucking matter? It wouldn't even be that much. Yes, emissions either way are bad, but at the end of the day, emissions are never going to go away, in my opinion. I don't think whether you do anything to try and get rid of emissions or you try to fucking just get rid of everything that produces emissions, something is naturally going to produce emissions into the air, and you're still going to get carbon emissions. But again, going back, let's say the small percentage of carbon emissions compared, with that's streamed off phones and stuff from video games, compared to the fucking massive amounts of carbon emissions, produced by factories and shit, it's super huge. There's a huge difference. So my question at the end of the day, compared to the state we have now with all these factories and stuff, do you really think this tiny little percentage of carbon emissions that is probably produced by, streaming video games on your phones, is it really that important? That small amount compared to the big amount we already have? That's my question. Now, again, I don't know too much about this topic. I know a little, again, about carbon emissions and global warming and a bunch of shit like that. I know a little bit amount because fucking high school has us do, well, guess what? This is our environmental studies class. And I get that. It's very important. But again, is it really that important for this tiny fragment versus this big one? So again, if anybody in the comments or anybody viewing this video wants to, lecture me or just explain to me how much bigger this concept really is, I will wholeheartedly listen to you, and I will hopefully comment back. Hopefully I'll learn something at the end of the day, but these are fucking YouTube comments at the end of the day, so I'm expecting a bunch of climate change weirdos in the comments going, "You don't fucking understand anything about the environment, you pussy. Get your fucking facts straight." Yeah, that's why I'm fucking asking you at the end to just calmly tell me the facts and shit so you don't have to, be on my ass. So, thank you all for watching. If you liked it, make sure you go like and subscribe. Follow me on my social medias in the description below. Tell me your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.